what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a collaboration mixtape from the Trill ENT fam. Basically, this project is brought to you by Lil Phat and Webbie, and it's called Trill for Life, and it came out in the fall of 2010. So this project turned out differently from what I originally thought it was going to be. I thought that this was going to be a full-blown collaboration project between Lil Phat and Webbie within those pitches, but they actually do not collaborate with both of them on the song very many times. Out of 21 songs on here, it probably only happens about 4 times in terms of them both dropping verses. And then maybe like a couple times where like Lil Phat is on the chorus or Webbie's on the chorus and pitches like that, but it's not many in terms of that. RIP to Lil Phat to say that if you wonder what happened to him within those particular pitches. But I was kind of thinking because Lil Phat had been on songs with Webbie back in 2008, like songs like Independent and some of those type pitches, and he was on Lil Boozy's Super Bad Return of Boozy Badass from 2009, so he was affiliated with them as far back as him being like 15, 16, 17. Lil Phat had done within those pitches, so I thought this was going to be like a showcase, like a collaboration project here to have kind of gotten. It does showcase Lil Phat on here, but it's just within the pitch. It's not as full bound within it. I still want to say that he was like 18, 17, 18 around this time when this particular project came out, so it's still kind of where he was a little bit wet, but not necessarily wet behind the ears, but just greener compared to the pitches to how the things were kind of amalgamated within that sense. Not to say this is a green project whatsoever. It's a real excellent type fare, but it's just, it is unfortunate that this was not, it's not unfortunate to where it's going to match the classic score that this project's going to get, but it's just within the tone. I was really thinking, that was my initial thought when I discovered this project several months ago, was thinking, hey, hell yeah, this is bomb, that there's going to be a Lil Phat and Webbie project, and there's just going to be a bunch of songs with them on in particular, but it didn't quite turn out that way. But this is within the pitch, that it is some good tones, that this is another classic here just to say within that pitch, and this is kind of a low-key type project. Basically, Webbie in particular, it was unexpected for him to kind of drop this because this is all new and original material just within that fair. I'd had to say a lot of songs on here that just have that relative pitch just because Webbie projects are a little bit, like his discography is not as full-blown kind of known within those pitches. I just would have to say, I mean, at least I know that he dropped 6 albums and then 2 collaboration albums with Lil Boozy's. There's 6 of the Savage Life side, I had to say, but it's just kind of within the concept once you start getting to some of his mixtapes, it's just kind of here and there as to which ones are official or which ones are even known about, especially all these years later. It's kind of the same thing with Lil Phat. Now, I know Lil Phat was a part of 3 Deep, which I want to review that mixtape. That's eventually going to happen if I can find it, but last I tried to check for that particular project, this wasn't available. I do definitely want to review that particular one if I can get the songs. There's like 16, 17, 20 of those songs just in particular, so it's kind of, it'll probably wind up being similar to like it was like some particular rap group, I forget who they were, they dropped like the Lookin' Boy song, kind of similar to like the ADHD project by Hot Styles, just within those pitches that I had to do like a partial review of that. That's probably what I would have to do with the 3D project, but hopefully I can find a bunch of songs in there. But with this particular project, real excellent type fare, original stuff here, like I was saying, recommend damn near every song on here. Out of 21 songs, we'll end up recommending 18, so this mixtape is going to get a 10 out of 10. I'm just going to go ahead and hop to a lot of these just within the fare because it's going to take a while to get to every last one of these songs within the pitch. Talking about 18 songs, just going in on each one of these and trying to remember all of them is going to be a difficult type fare, but just being able to say Lil Phat, Webbie's a pretty good combination, but they only actually collaborate on 4 songs out of the 18 that I recommend, or out of the total of 21 songs on here. It's just within the pitch. So this definitely was something that probably needed to be more aspect within the tone behind, but, you know, Lil Phat is on Webbie's Savage Life 3 a bunch, and there's some pitches like that. They did do some other mixtapes within those fairs as far as that particular kind of went, was just within the tone. So I look after it. Basic type fare here. The particular quality song on here is If Was a Fifth. I like this song just within the pitch. Reminds me definitely of like, it's like a good late day malaise to kind of get here, just to spin off of What Is It from like Savage Life 1 by Webbie, just within those particular tones. Just some glum rumination, a great song to smoke to just in the in-between type moments. Just some good type fare. It's kind of a woozy and sullen type song, kind of get within that pitch. Just Webbie pulling off some Tupac type vibes just within that standard fare, just lamenting about some of those particular pitches that just prior and previous problems just within that particular aspect. This good type concept, get some of that Savage Life, just kind of extra thoughts within that tone, so I appreciate that one. So a real stock highlight off this particular product is Roof. I'd have to say this is a Webbie exclusive song, but there are, like, even when they do exclusive songs where you don't get the other cat on the particular songs, these still hit pretty damn heavily. Like I was saying, just 10 out of 10 type fare. Roof is like a stock kind of Night Viciousness kind of get here, just typical of like late 2000s kind of Trill ENT, I'd have to say. Heavy stunt type music, good type stuff for that. Just get to balling, cut loose, get loose, some of that type of fairness, an overall hot song. Real nice pitch, a song that goes pretty well with that, but this is the Lil Phat version. I like the Roof song. Webbie did Roof. Lil Phat does I Want It. So I Want is like a vintage kind of Trill ENT flavored night hop to kind of get here. Definitely some night hop clubbing within that tone. Just a flashy kind of social gleams about this particular song. Stun a bit, smoke up, just some good. Stun a bit, smoke up, just some good type fares within that particular pitch behind it. Just what I'd say. A lot of these songs remind me a lot of Fox's Street Gossip album, just within those pitches. A little bit of Lil Boozy, but Lil Boozy didn't typically cut loose as many times as like these folks particularly kind of do. Webbie is kind of good at that with songs like First Night and Independent off of like Savage Life 2. But it really was Fox that had these blistering amount of nightclub and just step out kind of bar hopping type songs. It definitely reminds me more of that particular album more so than some of the ones that like Savage Life 3 wasn't like this. Some of these type of songs like I Want It, Roof, and Tool, and some of those type of ones, and like flashy, some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. I mean, there's definitely some songs on here to get tore up to within those particular pitches, but you'll be surprised with the number of songs that are just kind of amidst like the workshift dredge and just kind of the commerce of disc being a little bit wired. Webbie's a little bit more wired on this project. Just kind of a concept where he's kind of in the mood and mode to ride out with some of these songs on here. Like I feel like songs like Get Your Money Up, songs like Get Your Money Up and For Cheap. And there's another song on here like You Bitch is a nice one for that in particular, I'd have to say. Fuck With Me is a pretty nice one for that relative type of fare. So there's just some good nice ones within some of those type pitches to kind of get that. And I'd even say G Shit too is a good concept for some of those type fares. So it's just some alert type fare to kind of get within that. Good type pitches. But yeah, I would say I Want is definitely some good night flavor to kind of get for some of that type goodness. Splurge is a pretty nice bop on here. This is kind of a differential type one, but I like this. This is like a summery kind of bask in like the sunshine after like some relative dredge makeshift, I'd have to say. After like some relative dredge, I'd have to say. It's like makeshift with some enjoyment about it, I'd have to suppose about this one. Just sip a mojito and kind of chill, just kick back a bit. Just kind of has like those steel drums on there, some pitches like that. Just standard type fare. Good type kind of get some of that. It's just kind of one that has like some of that summery type appeal. The original Savage Life just within the pitch, just some kickback, but it's still within a relative makeshift. It is kind of the concept of this relatively having stuff or just got done with stuff as far as this pitch is going to happen, but just the concept of not being too frenetic and just overall militant about going about with this. It's kind of the concept of just kick back, splurge a bit within that tone, but also still being somewhat productive. And this is a relatively productive type project here, just to say that. Just like I was saying, there's just some ones for ride out type mode and just getting some shit done within those pitches as far as like the production, just getting towards it and just really being live and wired. It's just a good concept here. Get Your Money Up is a quality one. It's like a routine kind of day traffic and slag. I would definitely feel like about this one, just a cruise around kind of dredge, I'd have to say. Just mild relief from like a typical hustle day, I'd have to say about that particular fare. It's kind of something to kind of have within the pitch. I mean, it's not something that's full bound like getting full blown tour, but it's just kind of the concept of maybe just work shift got done just like 15-25 minutes ago. Just kind of the concept of this. Yep, this concept just got work done, paydays like 3 or 4 days and pitches like that, but just within the tone of being able to say that. It's just kind of within the pitch of like still being kind of productive in like a plainer type sense, I'd have to say within the tone. Yeah, Get Your Money Up is just kind of appreciating like the day and evening when as far as those pitches can happen. G Shit 2 is a quality one. It's like a very militant bravado, I'd have to say here. It goes with heavy evening. G Shit 2 is like some militant bravado, I'd have to say. It goes heavy, I would have to say in particular. Just some evening step out, I'd have to suppose. Just focus, get stuff done. Just a productive kind of late work shift to kind of have within that tone. Just kind of within the pitch behind it. Just really like the concept of some of this. Yeah, G Shit, I do think the original G Shit from Savage Life 1 definitely had like a more syrupy kind of hypnotic type production on there, but this one's definitely a pretty swirling type one as well. This has a little bit more drive about it, just the concept of really stepping towards it and just getting out, getting some cash, getting some of that type of just standard like bustle and productiveness, I'd have to say within the tone behind it. Just real atmospheric type one to kind of strength along, and I'd say muscle on. And I look after within the tone. Another one that's pretty similar to that, and that's a song. Get G Shit 2 is a song that has both Webbie and Lil Phat on there. And I'll go ahead and just say the other 3 songs so you know the ones that are also like that. Ain't Leaving Trill is one that has both Webbie and Lil Phat on there. Long Ways has both Webbie and Lil Phat on there, and then Tool has both Webbie and Lil Phat on there. So to talk about Tool real quick, basically the concept behind this one is like a tittering kind of feeling alive night commerce kind of get here. Just standard productive kind of after hours commute, I would definitely feel like, and just some homies times kind of get. So it's just within the tone, just a frenetic type one. It's kind of reminds me of something from like mid 2000s kind of mixtape type fare, just within the pitch behind it. Even though this is from the 2010s, the thing about this particular product is it's not quite as much like a usual kind of typical kind of thing about this particular mixtape is it's not as much like a usual kind of typical mixtape type fare like the early 2010s, something like, you know, from Yo Gotti or Meek Mill or Rick Ross, one of those type folks, Waka Flocka, Gucci Mane, some of those type folks just within that tone. It doesn't feel as trap oriented, just feels more rooted in like the 2000s type sound. This feels like expansions of like Webbie's Savage Life 1 and 2 within some of those type pitches, with Lil Phat thrown in with some of those type fares. So it's a good concept, just the fact that these folks meld between these styles, and Lil Phat adapts this style as well within those pitches. So it's just good fare for that. It's basically continued fare of just like Savage Life 1, Savage Life 2, some of those type of projects, Young Savage, some of those mixtapes that they were doing and projects they were doing in the 2000s. Too bad that there wasn't even a single Lil Boozy song on this project. Now, I realized that he was in prison, but just the fact that the three of them didn't record any follow-up songs like Independent or something like that, but I would have to say it's some good stuff. So Tool is a nice one. It's kind of a creep around just within the pitch behind it, just some night trekking just to get some stuff done within like some productiveness of it, just within the fare behind it. Just good hustle type song, or at least good motivated type one just within those pitches, just like G shit and some of those ones like Get Your Money Up and some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. Ain't Leaving Trill's a nice one. Like I was saying, this is another one that has both of them on there. It's like a leery, almost gothic kind of evening creep about it. I'd have to say about this one, to smoke a nice joint, ruminate during some step out, I'd have to say within that fare. Yeah, I really like the haunting type feel of Ain't Leaving Trill. Just a real nice gothic type one to kind of get within that tone. Just some good stuff to kind of hear in like the fall, September, October, November, some fares like that, just within the pitch behind it. Just real leery type one. Works within that sense. The Lil Phat song Lonely Now is a pretty nice one, as well as like a vintage kind of DJ drama Don Cannon mid-2000s mixtape soul to kind of get within that pitch. Just a dramatic kind of ladies up and down type song, kind of get within that fare. Just some quick times kind of have within that. Just takes it back to like that standardness of just like the typical kind of wailing just within that, just the standard kind of jive of I'm busy, don't have much time, just gotta be back and forth just within those pitches. The standard freneticness of just kind of getting towards it and just being out in the night wind and pitches like that, but just like the standard typical kind of dramatic type flair within that pitch and nailing it. So it's some good type fare. It's an interesting throwback considering the concepts of the trends that kind of changed from 2007 to some of these fares. From it's a good type song to throw off this particular product after the times it kind of shifted from like the mid 2000s, when this would have been a little bit more relevant to like the flair behind it as far as those pitches kind of happened, to where it was the way out in late 2010. I would say with some good type concepts, get some of that just bustling typeness, just a busy type factor with bass in mind. It has, suppose, good concept for that. I don't know if I talked about You Bitch, but I'll go ahead and talk about this one here. It's a pretty nice one as well. It's another good productive type one. It's like a flared up kind of evening dredge kind of get here, just some after work shift kind of annoyed bad hair day type stuff kind of get within that flare behind it. Just a productive but still busy times kind of get within that tone just within the pitch behind it. So it's just another stock one to kind of have within that sense of just like, I mean, it's definitely a more song. Just that You Bitch is just more of like a song for just being in traffic, kind of being pissed off, just cruise around as far as those pitches kind of happen, just within the aspect of just that standard, just frustration pitches like that within that fair. I mean, this is obviously one where you're about to ride out and gnarl someone up as far as those pitches kind of happen, but just within the pitch, as far as saying that it just also works for like some of that, just kind of typical kind of work shift, just frustration, some of that type of just being pissed off and venting as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a standard rant type song within the pitch behind it. But it is productive within a sense of just some, like some relatively wired, just still going to get shit done. Some of that type fare, just get some last minute tasks, just being pissed off enough to where you're not ready to just go home and like settle in and just watch the news or something like that, or football, but it's actually something where you get further stuff done. Local Niggas is a nice one. It's like a hazy kind of summer dredge here, I'd have to say. Just reminds me of a little boozy, just some local slag to kind of get, just a typical kind of late day cruise around to have within that fare. This one's pretty similar, I would have to say, to Local Niggas is pretty similar to songs like We Ain't Saving Them and some of those type pitches. I had to say a little bit of splurge, but just not quite as summary and just bask kind of within the concept. I look after Local Niggas, just a more dredge type one, just typical type fare, just the same sort of just standard day routine within the pitch. Just kind of not necessarily a slummish type one, but just a neighborhood jaunt within some of those type pitches. Just more almost stroll. I mean, it's like a lazy kind of cruise around, but also like a neighborhood trek, just getting some gas station goodies, some of that type fare, I'd have to say. For cheap is a nice one. It's like an oozing kind of night dredge and commute to definitely get here. Just stock demon time embrace, I'd have to say. Just wired and kind of itching for some jive as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. This is another type one where Webbie was kind of on point as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just the tone of just getting some stuff done within those pitches. I feel like this definitely goes with You Bitch, a little bit of Get Your Money Up, some of those type ones. I would say there's another one on here like Tool, definitely. and G shit too, some of those type pitches just within the tone behind it. I would definitely feel like within that. So this is kind of the concept, but just kind of, yeah, for cheap is just some good excitement to kind of have within that fair. It's not necessarily like a wire. I mean, I feel like the mood of the song is more wired than the actual energy of the song is just within the pitch of just being like, you know, I'm wide awake, I'm going to have some time, so I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do, get some goodies, get some swishers, get some Chex Mix, get some good, just pizza, get some pizza, some shit like that, just within the tone as far as those fairs going to happen with it. Just get some standard stocks up and figure out what's going to happen for the next good while. But it's just within the pitch of kind of saying that it's just kind of just maybe just got done with worship, just that actual this concept of stepping towards like further, is that concept of stepping towards further kind of enjoyment, just within the factor of once stepping towards that further enjoyment once time is freed up as far as this pitch can happen. Just good type tone. We Ain't Saving Them's a quality one. We Ain't Saving Them's another nice one to kind of get within that tone. It's like a stock kind of standard late day dredge kind of get here. Just some Bella's gripe, I'd have to say. Just kind of the tone of like just another day to stay focused kind of out to kind of get within that pitch. It's just kind of the concept of just talking about some of that type fare. Just standard BS, standard bullshit just within that pitch as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just the fare of just kind of typical routine type, just crap that life's going to throw your way within the pitch, but just stay focused, stay on the grind, some of that type fare, just standard outs just within the pitch, like another routine kind of Tuesday or Wednesday, some of that type fare. Feels more like midweek slag, more so than weekend frustration, I'd say, within that tone, with some good type fare for that. So, yeah, there's just a lot of songs on this particular project to talk about. That's why this review is going to be a little bit lengthier, just trying to meld all this. It's kind of a messier one to kind of ring together here, just because there is a lot of songs, and a lot of them are pretty damn quality. Just to say, once again, this product gets a 10 out of 10. There is 18 free songs out of 21 that are worth the investment, just trying to talk about all these. That's just within the tone. But I think I haven't talked about Light My Fire remix. It's like a woozy kind of haunt. Light My Fire remix is a good hollow and kind of ghostly type tune to kind of get from Lil Phat within that pitch of just having some good single type fare. This feels like a buzz single that probably could have been. Just makes me question where the original Light My Fire was from, if that was from like a Lil Phat project, something like that, because it's a pretty good single here. Don't know about the original, where that originated from, but still within the pitch of being a pretty hot song here. So, Long Ways is another quality one. Now, this is another one that kind of has, like, both Lil Phat and Webbie on there. I'd say it's like an in-between day, kind of extra thoughts kind of get within that pitch. Just a stroll around, kind of neighborhood, usual fare, I'd say. Dredgy, but enjoyed within the pitch behind it. It has, suppose, this usual routine type fare just within the aspect. It's kind of one of those ones where you just smoke it's kind of one of those usual fare type ones where you just smoke a swisher while walking around some pitches like that. Maybe you have, like, a bag of chips with you, some of that type fare, Sprite, something like that, just within the tone behind it. I'd say just standard routine. That's just kind of the concept about some of these. Oh yeah, I think I haven't talked about Racks. That's another nice one on here. It's like a splashy kind of night venue. Times kind of get within that pitch. This reminds me of First Night and Independent from Webbie Savage Life 2. Good house party type noise. I definitely feel like about this one. Pretty good jumper. So it's just within the pitch. So yeah, there's a lot of songs kind of get within this pitches here. Just, I think that's pretty much like the last one to kind of have within that fair. Just has some of that relative type appeal that's pretty similar to First Night, kind of a meld between First Night and Independent. Just some of those more turn up type ones in a more house party type sense. A lot of the nightclub songs that Webbie did off Savage Life 2 were more house party type fare within that sense of just being able to get some red cup and hard liquor type music within those fairs. Just standard kind of local commotion, but that's kind of what Racks kind of winds up being on here as far as those fairs going to happen. There are some dance club songs on here. There are some nightclub songs, plenty of songs like Light My Fire Remix, Tool, Roof, I Want It, some of those type ones. Racks is a good concept for that. Some of those type flares, some of those type pitches. I'd say Flashy is a pretty nice one as well. Now, I don't think I've talked about Flashy either, so this is another one this is another one to get to. This is like a nice bop to kind of have here. It's like a jazzy kind of evening commerce, I'd have to say, just after makeshift, but still kind of wired. I'd have to say about this one, just to situate, call up the homies. It's like definitely after the makeshift, but still wired. I'd have to say within that tone, to situate, call up the homies. Definitely, I'd have to say here, and just get to some night supplies just within those pitches. Flashy is another one that's pretty wired within the relative pitch behind it. Goes great with 4 Cheap and G Shit too. Some of those type ones I'd have to say, probably Tool and some of those type pitches, just to be able to get within that tone. So there are some nice ones that kind of have that embrace. I do like the concept of like the embrace behind this product. This is definitely a very welcoming type product to be able to have once like tasks are done. I mean, it doesn't have as much full bound kind of makeshift within that pitch. I mean, there is a little bit of dredge on there with songs like If Was the Fifth and some of those type pitches, and a little bit of Splurge, some of those type ones for like a relative day dredge. But I do like a lot of these that are just kind of the excitement of just that initial kind of embrace of it being like 5:15 or 4:50. Some of those type fairs of work is either real close to ending or just ended. Some of those type fairs to just be able to have some of that for like some good step out for like, all right, it's time to get crazy. Some of those type pitches. So it's actually like, despite the fact that the lyrics depict this of it being more kind of like Savage Life gangster rap within that pitch, it's a pretty good tone to have like some of this for like some good turn up as far as just shifting out of like it's just like the flip mode to getting towards like some getting crunk type moments. And it does have those moments on here. There are some free songs within those pitches, and there is definitely some turn up on here. This whole project is free within that tone, so it just has the aspect of having like some good day slag, some good evening primers for getting ready to step out, some nightclub hoppers on here, and even a few like I would say like house party gems to get within that tone. So it's just some excellent type. There's a number of these just with an aspect behind it, plus some just overall just yeah, plenty of dredge on here, some pitches like that. So it's just within the tone. Now I'm not sure about the singles off this project. I think it was kind of here and there within those pitches. Not sure if this particular product was promoted, even if it was. Not sure if this particular product was promoted whatsoever, but it is a blistering one. So yeah, this mixtape is a 10 out of 10. I'd have to say. I think I finally covered all 18 of the songs. Took a while, but that's like what I was saying is that's probably going to be the concept. So the social score gets a 10 out of 10. It's nailing these dredge and makeshift songs, nailing the evening excitement for once the tasks are done. The night venue songs, the nightclub and house party songs are real blistering and hit pretty well. About the only real complaint about this project is just the fact that Webbie and Lil Phat were not on every single song, or just had like this particular flair of just going in and nailing all these within the junction of it. Probably would have been that much more vicious. Would have been a good display to have gotten Lil Phat bolstered up a little bit more, to have gotten him to have been like the next big thing. But I realized that he was once again like 17, 18 as this was kind of happening. So it's just within the pitch behind it. But I look after it. Plenty good social stock. This is a vicious type project just to be able to get. Now I give it a 10 out of 10. I realize it didn't have a single, and it is pretty low key within the sense. I realized that Lil Phat's pretty low key, and Webbie was kind of on like a. Yeah, Webbie was kind of fading somewhat into obscurity back in late 2010. But I look after it just within the tone. I still think the classicness of how this project nailed the execution behind it is just to be noted on here, so it's just within the pitch. But you could almost say it could be like a 9.5 or 9.75 if you just don't casually know enough about some of these. But it's just within the pitch. I'm going to give it a 10. So in terms of the future, like Webbie has kind of dropped some projects, but not as oftenly recently. Lil Phat is unfortunately deceased. But I look after, there are at least 6 Savage Life, so I'm going to get to some more of those. Savage Life 4, 5, and 6 definitely I still need to get to. And there are some Lil Phat mixtapes. I'll eventually get to some of those type fairs to see what else he was up to. And there are some other Webbie mixtapes as far as trying to find them as just to what's around with some of those type pitches that I'd say. So it's just within the tone. But yeah, it's a classic mixtape here. Like I was saying, I thought that this mixtape was going to be different, but it didn't change the quality of it, so I'd say it's easy enough to recommend this as a blistering classic. Oh yeah, there was one more song I didn't talk about off this project. I mean, this review is going to be relatively lengthy just because of the pitch. I once again talking about 18, 20 songs here, but just in the pitch behind it. Fuck With Me was one that I forgot about, so this is like a creeping kind of night swirl of a song I'd had to say here. It just reminds me of like the OG G shit from like Savage Life 1. This reminds me of like the OG G shit from like Savage Life 1, I would have to say, just within the pitch behind it. This is like some early kind of night owl activity, I'd have to say here. Just grab goodies and just kind of trek about within that night type commerce just within the pitch behind it. I suppose there's some good type fare for that. And oh yeah, just talk about some of the songs I didn't recommend on here. Just on top of that, the 3 songs I didn't recommend. So basically, like Loving You Is Wrong is just kind of a dramatic type bass song to kind of get within that pitch, but it was kind of one that was pretty similar to like the vintage kind of Don Cannon mixtape soul of like the mid 2000s, but just the aspect behind it just didn't really nail the tone as well as like commonly that some of those type songs kind of did. I did like some of the dramatic type flair about it, but just didn't have the aspect as much as to how commonly I would listen to that one. Odds Against Me was just another stacked up type song to kind of get for like when the going gets tough, some of those type fares when it gets down to crunch time. But I just didn't appreciate that song as much as like Get Your Money Up or like some of those type songs. There's some other ones on here like G Shit too, some of those type ones that I'd say in particular. Some of the more turn up type ones like Tool, I'd have to say is just not I mean, it had relatively plotting beat on there, just a plainer type one, just a plainer type version of Get Your Money Up, I'd have to say. And then Up in My Business, just didn't really nail the composition, what it was aiming for within those pitches behind it. It was probably a song that should have just been left off the project, just didn't really nail. It's a little bit cumbersome within the pitch behind it, but that's just the flair behind it. So that's some extra stuff to kind of say about this. So yeah, classic mixtape here, I'd have to say.